US President Joe Biden says he's still running for president, telling journalists he can get the job done. Biden appeared at a news conference in Washington at the end of NATO's 75th anniversary summit. He spoke at length about his achievements in office, saying he was the best person to run for president. Biden's mental fitness has been under scrutiny since he appeared confused at a debate last month. Several top Democrats have withdrawn their support for his re-election campaign this coming November. Well, Thursday's press conference was meant to reassure Democratic lawmakers and voters about the US president's mental fitness, but Biden made a number of blunders, most strikingly when he welcomed Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to the stage.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President.
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
What concerns do you have about Vice President Harris's ability to beat Donald Trump if she were at the top of the ticket?
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be Vice President, but I think she was not qualified to be President. I'm following the advice of my Commander-in-Chief, the Chief of Staff of the military, as well as the Secretary of Defense and our intelligence people.
DW's Bejamin Alvarez Gruber is standing by for us in Washington. Bejamin, good to see you. So more slip-ups and gaffes by President Biden at this press conference. Tell us, how big is the pressure on him right now?
The pressure is very big, and for those who were not sure if President Biden should remain the Democratic candidate, of course, these two slips will not help them. Will probably help them reinforce their idea that he should step aside, because the first slip where he mistakenly referred to Volodymyr Zelensky as President Putin happened even before this highly anticipated longer press conference. This his own team called a big boy press conference, and where this second slip where he referred to Vice President Kamala Harris as Vice President Trump happened when he said that he picked her because he believed that she could beat Trump. It was a lengthy press conference where President Biden spoke about one of his favorite topics, you can say, that's foreign policy. But the question, of course, remains if this is a topic where he will win undecided voters and also Democrats who waited, some of them, for after this NATO summit to be over to call on President Biden to step aside from this 2024 presidential race. And immediately, as soon as this press conference ended, the top Democrat in the House Intelligence Committee and several others did just that. So Biden's campaign has been, as you said, on the ropes for 2 weeks since President Biden's poor debate performance. We can expect that calls for him to end his campaign will also continue growing.
Benjamin, putting these slips and stumbles aside, what were your main takeaways from what President Biden had to say at the conference?
He praised this summit, as you said, the 75th anniversary summit. He spoke at length about NATO, its values in the United States. He recounted how he, for example, helped get Finland into the military alliance, what to do against China for supporting Russia during its war against Ukraine. He also spoke about his interactions with several foreign leaders. He made a clear point and a position on NATO, also stressing that this is a position that is very different from his predecessor, former President Trump, by saying that Trump has no commitment to NATO whatsoever. And what would happen to NATO and its commitment also to Ukraine's path to membership, that this new summit called irreversible, if Donald Trump makes it back into the White House, was, of course, the elephant in the room during these 3 days that the summit lasted. But it was, of course, a question that many of the attendees, of the leaders of NATO, they were here in Washington, dodged. Many of them said that they hope that the strong transatlantic alliance will continue in the future, regardless of who is in the White House, many, of course, dodging the question, but that's probably something that is in the mind of a lot of them. What will happen not only to the alliance, to this transatlantic alliance, if Donald Trump makes it back into the White House? And that's something that might actually happen. So on one side, for President Biden, this opportunity to show himself, but as we just spoke about it, fears and, of course, concerns remain by many Democrats saying that he should step aside.
Just quickly, Bejamin, Biden says he's still got a job to finish. That's, of course, to get re-elected. What's his campaign going to look like from here on?
There will be several trips. He will be in Michigan. He also will be in Texas. Next trip's already incoming. The campaign says that it will continue. There will be more trips coming up. But, of course, the pressure will continue as President Joe Biden says, I want to continue. I want to finish this job.
That's our correspondent, Bejamin Alvarez Gruber in Washington. Thanks a lot, Bejamin.